everybody.
Hello. Welcome to the first ever episode of the Moose in the Supermarket podcast.
Woohoo. Yeah, I mean, technically this is, what, 1.5?
Yeah, 1.5. We tried to record something.
This is a Lion King Mo.
We tried to record something earlier, but it literally, we couldn't use it at all.
Yeah, that was entirely my fault. I don't know how to freaking record stuff properly.
Shame. Shame.
My apologies. My apologies.
And we are your hosts, Phil.
Hi, Phil.
Hi, Phil.
And I am Link.
Hi, Link.
Hi.
And I am, well, Mo. Yes.
Hey.
Okay, so...
Okay, we're going to make this short. Basically, this is going to be a remake of the first pilot.
Yes.
That we tried to do.
I feel like you guys are never going to let that down, are you?
Oh, no.
But
So
that's not your fault. It's like, it was Skype being, fucking stupid.
Well, yeah.
Alright, so this is a remake of a podcast of movie remakes.
Yes.
So, wouldn't this technically count as a reboot?
Yeah. We call it it's the pilot, but it's also a remake of the pilot. So basically we're trying to make it it's a reimagining of the first episode.
Alright.
I mean, that's the thing. I don't even remember what the first one we did. I think we kind of... I think the first one we did, we tried to introduce ourselves a little bit more, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
So I guess...
Introductions are for losers, Mo.
Well, I mean, but not everybody knows who we are. It's like, oh, yeah, I follow this one podcast. I don't know any of those people there, but I like to listen to what the heck th're talking about.
For all one of us to do a face reveal, you gotta hit follow on SoundCloud.
Like and subscribe. But
and repost, comment.
Repost, comment, send carrier pigeon.
Any SoundCloud follow bots will be removed.
Oh, God.
And blocked. With extreme prejudice.
Hey, Phil, what do you do?
Oh yes, I make music sometimes. I sometimes like jamming on my keyboard and hitting the cow noise that goes moo on there. and then I record it and edit it sometimes and upload it to the internet for viewers to see. And then I try to jam with certain people online, but a lot of them half of the time don't speak English.
Oh, I see. Well, I would have to say same. Mo?
Me? So, I make music too. I think we all here make music.
Yeah, so we are all musicians
what a
in some
coincidence.
form.
Because Moose in the Supermarket is not only a podcast, but it's sort of a band.
Oh, snap. Who would have thought? But, so, I guess what I do in my spare time besides, obviously making music is I work like a normal human being. I pay my taxes. But I also work at a library and I substitute teach.
I work in a hardware store part-time, and I help push carts and organize floors and question the motives of my decisions over the past 3 years.
Oh, geez.
Alright, and this is my resume coming back to me. I, as my colleagues here have said already, we are all musicians. I am actually going to school at Berkeley online to become a game composer and sound designer. But right now, I am working at Toys R Us.
We're all working for the weekend, as the band Lover Boy would say. But also, like, it's hard because, like, the music industry, even making entertainment, is really extremely difficult. Especially when, like, guitars are expensive, amps are expensive, like, recording equipment is expensive, and everything and now is expensive. Like, it's hard to even find a guitar at a pawn shop that's worth $20. Like, I remember hearing stories of these, like, talented musicians. They just got their start from going to a pawn shop in Detroit and getting a guitar that was like $15. Yeah. So it's like, damn, every time I go to a pawn shop and get a guitar, it's like over $70 to $80.
Yeah, and it's not even like they're amazing looking. They're just ordinary guitars.
Yeah. And some of them don't even work.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of them are missing strings.
So yeah, I've just been getting used to the fact that I'm not going to be able to use expensive music equipment until I'm actually an established musician who has a steady income coming in.
Same here.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
I'll be jamming in the hallways at various conventions near you.
Alright, so this is the first episode is a podcast about remakes, reboots, etc.
It can be not just movies, like there's also like albums and even like cartoons that have been reimagined recently. Some of them have been under controversy. For better or worse.
Yes.
But let's go around the circle or curved line.
The hemicircle. The hemisphere.
Let's go around the hemisphere, the semicircle, whatever. And talk about which remakes that we prefer, and then we'll move on to remakes that we think are utter like crap.
Alright.
So I guess I'll start this one off. I will start this one off. I'm not against remakes or reboots whatsoever. As long as my biggest concern is the time in which the original came out and when the remake or reboot came out. They can't be too close together because it's going to be very confusing. It's going to seem a bit repetitive depending on how it's told too. So yes, we do. So as long as there's not, my biggest concern is as long as there is not the reboot and the original are not so close, or sorry, it's been redone multiple times or so close from when they were put out. So like the biggest example I can think of is Spider-Man. We pretty much have 3 different actors play Spider-Man within, I want to say,
less
20 years.
Less than 15.
Yeah, I want to say less than 15. I want to say the first one came out in what?
2002.
Yeah.
2002.
Yeah. That's still that was way too soon. You know, and now we got a third one coming out. Now, thank goodness, I don't think they mentioned that they're going to go into detail about Uncle Ben's death.
Oh, no.
Because there's only so many times you can kill that poor man.
They said in Civil War, the Russo brothers specifically stated in Civil War that the Spider-Man we see in Civil War, he's been Spider-Man for a while.
Okay.
And that Uncle Ben's already been long gone. He's already in high school. He's already has his friends and all that.
Okay.
He's already fought some criminals, but mostly just bank robbers. Civil War is when he actually takes on an actual kind of threat.
Yeah.
Kind of. So, all that's kind of... The Russo brothers said whatever the new director does, that connects with what Civil War is doing, so they're not going back in time or whatever. They're moving forward, which I think is for the best.
Yeah.
That's good. And I don't know if any of you guys seen the... I'm pretty sure you had this. If you've been on YouTube or around, you've probably seen that. They were putting out another Blair Witch movie.
But it's a sequel. It's not a remake.
Oh, it's a sequel?
Yeah, it's a semi-sequel.
Oh.
It's basically what Blair Witch 2 was originally going to be. But then they made another Blair Witch 2 in 2000, which has nothing to do with... It was basically like a joke. Like kind of... It was a deconstruction of like a meta like horror movie like Scream. But the people that produced the movie interfered and cut the movie so much that it's like basically like a parody of itself.
Oh, jeez.
But Blair Witch, the one that's coming out, it's not a remake, and the director said it's a sequel. It technically follows after the original Blair Witch, but it has its own sort of story as well. But it is also found footage, like the original. But, like, Adam Wingard, I trust him, even though he's involved, like, with utter shit like VHS. Which is basically, like, if you want to watch a movie that's going to piss you off within the first few minutes, watch VHS. Sorry, fans that like it.
So, that was pretty much my opinion on that.
But funny you mentioned reboots and remakes, because a lot of people think reboot is different than remake, and I could see why, because reboot's like a jumping off point, while a remake deconstructs the entire thing from the ground up, while reboot basically will take something that's already been established, just give it a new fresh coat of paint, basically.
Right. Okay.
Like, an example is Robert Englund wasn't called to do the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, even though he said, I would love to be a part of it. He said no, and they gave it to the director of a bunch of music videos. One of them is Smells Like Teen Spirit. He was a music video director directing a movie for the Nightmare on Elm Street remake by Platinum Dunes, Michael Bay's company.
Right.
And Jackie Earle Haley is a good choice to play Freddy Krueger, but he's not scary in that movie, neither is that movie, like, remotely frightening. You got a good cast like Rooney Mara, just, like, acting's really wooden, and it's just really bad. And there's, like, no love or care put into it, really.
Yeah.
They would even try to, like, go practical. Like, they reshoot scenes from the original Nightmare on Elm Street, but it's all using green screen and CG, where Wes Craven used plastic and, like, cardboard and stuff, and, like, stuffing.
It's more creepy with the original effects, I would think, than with just green screen effects, because we see that all the time, but we don't see, like, the classic props anymore that made those movies, like, iconic.
Like, there's a lot of directors now that are really shooting for practical. Like, me and Jeremy, one of my close friends, we just saw a movie called We're Still Here, and about 80-90% of that movie is practical effects. They literally, like, use, like, scenes where the stairs are melting within the floorboard, and they use mashed potatoes and, like, all these other effects to, like, get that squishy sound, and also to make it look like it was melting the staircase. And I only got that from this, like, YouTube channel called Good Bad Flicks, but I'm like, that's really cool. Like, artists should still, like, be doing that more. Yeah. If they're remaking something.
Didn't the Babadook do something like that too?
Yeah, I think Babadook was very...
Almost all of it was practical, I think.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
The
movie was okay for me, though. It was...
See, I am not a horror movie fan.
That kid was That kid was a little shit, though.
Oh, that kid was... I mean, maybe he did have... I think he might have had mental problems or something like that, but at the same time... at the same time, I felt like he's a bit...
But the thing is, with the Babadook, it's another movie that uses practical. It's also an original IP.
Yeah.
And also, it's just pretty well... It's well competently directed. But the problem is, there are scenes in the movie where the kids... Like, it's his first movie, and, like, there's scenes, literally, when I've seen, like, edits of the movie where they pause the movie, and the kid's, like, smiling at the camera when he's trying to be strangled. Spoiler alert, but, like, the woman who plays the mother, she's really well good.
Yes.
And, like, I know the director of the Babadook, she's been approached by Marvel to do some stuff. She was in the running to do Captain Marvel, but now I think she's out, so they're getting... somebody else to do it, but I'm sure DC or Marvel will give her a place for something later.
Yeah, there's gonna be another big project I could see her being part of, because like I said, I'm not really torn. It's just like the movie's not bad, but I don't think it's amazing either.
It's not really. It's more like disturbing than it is scary.
Yeah.
Well, yes,
and it's unsettling.
It's unsettling. I really like it because it's one of the few movies out there, like within the quote unquote horror genre, that does not use jump scares.
That is true.
Oh yeah,
there were no jump scares from what I heard.
Absolutely hate jump scares because it's like a really cheap way to get someone to jump out of their seat, and it's put me off of like the horror genre as a whole. And I like to see more movies like this where it has those horror elements, or quote unquote horror, but it doesn't like rely on those.
So
cheap
Sean,
effects.
what you're saying is you don't want like a Pop-Tart coming out of the toaster in the first 30 seconds as a jump scare? Just like in Silent Hill, the sequel to the Silent Hill movie, which basically like bastardizes Silent Hill 3, and like also like what was the other one? Oh, Smiley, where they try to make this girl come out and yell at this one person and make it a jump scare. Like they shoot it like a jump scare. It's like the biggest, most piece of shit thing you can ever do for a Hollywood production.
Okay, so we are getting a little bit off topic.
Yes.
Let's get back to remakes. And I have a decent one. It's a cartoon that came out a couple of years ago. Remember the Thundercats reboot or remake, as you will?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I didn't
What
watch all of
happened
it,
to
but I
it?
watched it.
That is a good question. What happened there?
I remember hearing something. It was toy sales.
Well, yeah, I kind of figured that was the main point. Of
Like
bringing it
Cartoon
back,
Network
but-
has this weird like, and this is just like speculation, but I've heard from a lot of people. This isn't just Thundercats, it's Symbionic Titan. And I think one other show was affected. By
Rest
this.
in peace.
But those shows were affected by toy sales and also just marketing the show.
Wasn't Secret Saturdays also one of them too?
I want to say maybe,
That was another good show that.
but I also heard it was like it might have been union based too. Like Cartoon Network's very pro union now, but back then it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And like Cartoon Network was still in a growing period in 2010, 2011, where it was basically rebooting the entire network. Cartoon Network.
we know when they start putting live action shows on there.
Cartoon Network basically in itself was rebooting itself
Yep.
in 2010 with Adventure Time regular show and a couple other shows, and few of the CN Real stuff was there, but slowly after about 2010, 2011, those shows officially ended for good.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah, that
But with
is,
Thundercats, like they had really good intentions, a really good animation team.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I think the people that worked on Korra season 2 animated Thundercats.
Probably. They do look pretty similar.
I know they got the guy who played Terry McGinnis in Batman Beyond, Will Friedle. That's his name from Boy Meets World.
yeah.
Yeah, he was in it. He was good, and they got the original actor from Lino. He plays the King,
Nice.
and it was sort of like what Transformers should have done.
Yeah.
It was a good like bringing like it was a passing of the torch movie kind of show, but in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And there's rumors that He-Man might do the same thing. They do a movie, but I don't want the director of G.I. Joe Retaliation and Gem and the Holograms to direct it,
Yeah.
which was another bastardization of something that could have been cool.
Remember they brought back Toonami?
Yes.
And I was
Another
watching
reboot?
it. Yes, another Cartoon Network reboot. And I remember watching it for the first time since its reboot, and I heard them say a curse word, and I was like, he can't say that. It's not the time frame.
Not Steve Blue. Why,
Alright.
Steve? Why?
Like his purity has been tarnished.
But like,
Cursing.
but with like Toonami, when it got rebooted, a lot of people like really like pissed off because they weren't allowed to show a lot of the early shows like Dragon Ball and
Yeah.
Yu Yu Hakusho, because at the time Toonami and Cartoon Network didn't have the rights to them. So over time they had to build them up and get them. But I'm like, it started off pretty strong. Like I really like Dead Man Wonderland until its ending. The last 2 episodes of that show are just, I'm sorry, but those are just complete awful. Just garbage. Like it ruined the point of the show, and like they also had some other good stuff too. Like they brought back Cowboy Bebop.
Yep. Oh,
Yeah,
they had to bring that back.
Oh yeah. Well, even though
That
it
was
got
like a
popular on
staple.
Adult Swim, really than Toonami. But,
Yeah.
which is weird because like Yu Yu Hakusho got popular on Adult Swim, then they edited the show for Toonami. So you're like, as a little kid, you're watching the show, and like you see this mother like with all these cans, and they're like saying, "Well, she got drunk on soda." It's like, I know what that is. Let me stop you right there.
So I have a topical remake dealing with the recent death of Gene Wilder.
Oh.
So, if anyone remembers the very old movie The Producers
Oh, yes.
with Gene Wilder, well, they probably 20 years ago at this point.
I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
they remade The Producers into a musical, a Broadway musical, and then they made a movie about it. And if anyone has seen both of those,
The remake I wouldn't find is too bad.
oh, it's
Pretty
great.
faithful.
I love
honestly.
it. I mean, it's very different from the first movie, just because
It's much darker. I would say it's a much darker movie than the original. Even Mel Brooks liked the remake.
Oh yeah, like, oh, I'm trying to say it is pretty faithful, but they both are reflective of like the times that they were made. So like, in the original, you have like, the person who's playing the Hitler in the musical, he's a very like hippie kind of dude, and in this one he's like very like flamboyant and whatnot, and and I think it's very telling of the times. Like back then, being hippie was like the worst thing you could be, and now it's like being gay or flamboyant as a guy. And
I wouldn't be surprised if Mel Brooks wasn't even allowed to like go that approach back in the original, so they had to change it.
probably, but I just really love the juxtaposition of the different time periods between them.
Mm-hmm.
But they're both amazing on their own, and I like both of them.
Yeah. Going to me for a remake that I praise a lot recently is the 2013 remake of Evil Dead, directed by Fede Alvarez and produced by the original team that made the original Evil Dead movies. Basically, like, Evil Dead in itself almost feels like a different movie at times, but also like takes elements of Evil Dead 1 and 2, because Evil Dead 2 in and of itself, Sam Raimi wanted that to be sort of a remake of the first one, because he couldn't get the rights to use a lot from the first Evil Dead, because it's like owned by like all these red tape and like legal companies, because Sam Raimi spent like a lot of like his years after college or whatever, or is trying to sell the movie to like all these different distributors. Now that's under like one umbrella except for Army of Darkness, but like it's so weird that it took this long to like make that happen. But the remake of Evil Dead just feels like a love letter to like the originals, but also like it kind of does its own thing at times. It's very more subdued and darker, I would say, than the first Evil Dead, because the first Evil Dead hasn't held up really well, but it's still a very respected like movie in the horror genre, and it built an institution for years to come on how you can make a movie within like a very tight budget with all the problems and stuff. But I also heard like the director of the movie and the producers, Bruce Campbell, told the cast, "You're not going to have it easy on the set. You're not going to be pampered and luxury. You're going to face the same stuff we faced 30 years ago. You're going to be wet. You're going to be tired. You're going to be hungry." And there's a tiny bit of CG in the remake, mostly for touch-ups. To like get the makeup look a little bit better, and some of the demon effects you got to like stretch them out.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff is forgivable if it's like done like minimally.
That's what The Walking Dead does usually, is use CG for touch-ups or certain locations that they can't build on a set because of budget.
But doing like an entire movie of like green screen and CG, like after a while, it just ends up looking fake, even more fake than just using the the regular prosthetics from before.
Yeah. Going back to Sam Raimi's Oz the Great and Powerful.
And the Hobbit movies. And
well, the thing with the Hobbit movies was like it's so weird because like Peter Jackson even said like he has a lot of the orc costumes. Del Toro even made a lot of the costumes for the movie before they were going to shoot the movie. So when Del Toro dropped out, they were still going to use a lot of his stuff, but then they're like, let's just make CG orcs instead. It's like, no. You have the costumes. Del Toro, like, he's not just a producer. When he drops out of a project, he doesn't drop out completely. Like, his heart's still in the movie, somewhat, which is good. But it's like, you didn't have to make the orc CG. You didn't have to make certain bits CG. I understand they had to make this one character CG because the actor who voiced him, he was suffering from Alzheimer's, and Peter Jackson still wanted him to be in the movie.
Yeah.
So they had to just make him CG with some motion capture and just have him re-record his lines.
Yeah.
So that's completely respectful. Mm-hmm. Too bad it was in the last Hobbit movie, which could have been easily spliced into the second movie really, without any issues.
So we've talked about a lot of the reboots and remakes and all that jazz that we like. Let's talk about a few that we don't like and outright hate. I have 2 words. Powerpuff Girls.
Memes! And just to warn you guys in advance, we're not we're okay with the dank memes. We're hip with the kids, but there's a line.
Like
Powerpuff Girls 2016, which, or as I call reboot PPF or whatever. It's animated cancer at times. It's like too much dankness.
It's a reboot for 2016, but its memes are from like 2009.
It looks so dated. Even the animation looks dated.
Mm-hmm. Like it kind of looks like a little bit like the Clarence style, but
because there's a lot of people that worked on Clarence from Cal Arts that worked on the show apparently.
But it's just one long out, drawn out groan to the Powerpuff Girls remake.
It's not just a reboot of the show; they even remake certain episodes.
I know, and they make it worse.
Yeah,
I don't mean to outright shit on it. The voice actresses are amazing with what they have to work with, but just
I'm
the writers, man.
Bless their hearts, they're really trying. I just feel bad that the original cast got so shelved and got they didn't even get a phone call about it. And Craig McCracken's getting harassed on Twitter. Is I had nothing to do with this. Cartoon Network owns the Powerpuff Girls. I created it, but Cartoon Network and Viacom owns it. They can do whatever they want with it. I just feel bad because they didn't ask me, especially when I had some free time.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason why Gendy Tartakovsky is technically, he's not really rebooting, but he's continuing Samurai Jack. He's only doing it because he had some free time and he wants to conclude everything.
Right.
The way it should be.
Yes.
With the original team.
I'm excited for that one. But this one was really not needed. It's kind of unnecessary to reboot.
I don't see it lasting
Powerpuff
past
Girls.
the second season.
I thought it was off the air already, but
apparently
it's still chucking.
Apparently got renewed. But that's just a rumor. But hey, they're gonna end a regular show and all these other shows that still have some life in them, but reboot something that didn't even need to be remade in the first place.
I mean, regular show has been going since 2009. I can see it ending now.
It was sort of winding down after the 6th, 7th season. It was sort of going backwards and more so forward.
It's gonna die a natural death.
Yeah, it's gonna die. It's gonna die It's gonna die with dignity.
Meanwhile, The Simpsons is just, it keeps going and going.
Actually, the newer episodes haven't been half bad.
See, I've watched a couple of newer Simpsons, and sometimes it's so cringeworthy.
Just don't. The Lady Gaga one made me cringe a lot, and the one where they do the Homer shake, the Harlem shake. It's just not groaning. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Though it did birth a really good Marge gif with the crunking. Thank God that lasted for that long. But now you can pull the plug on the show.
She's gonna compete in the Cell games with that.
Oh God! So yeah, Powerpuff Girls. No, please
don't. 0 out of 10 would not recommend. But Mo, do you have a remake before we? Because you should go before me.
That's the thing. While you guys were talking, I'm trying to think of it. I'm I can't think of any reboots that are bad that I don't really care too much for.
One which it doesn't have to be movies. Go back.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to think of everything.
The games,
the New Testament. Not a fan.
It's a retcon.
It's a retcon. I legit cannot think of anything. Not to say that there has to be somewhere in the back of my mind. There's got to be one that I know for sure that I'm like, I don't like that movie.
Nightmare on Elm Street didn't piss you off, or
no? Actually, I actually liked it. It was not as good as the originals, but I did enjoy that one. Same with
do you want to talk about the movie that must not be named, which is Avatar, The Last Airbender movie?
So I dodged a bullet. I still never seen that.
Yeah, me neither. But
you guys are weak. You're weak.
Are we gonna have to do like a bad movie marathon at some point?
We should totally do that.
But the thing is, I saw The Last Airbender in theaters because me and my dad.
I'm so sorry.
you spent money on that.
My dad spent money on that.
Oh,
because my dad actually started getting into the show.
Mm-hmm.
And he hasn't. I don't think he's finished it yet. But I liked the show, and I think it just recently ended when the movie came out. But and I was really excited. But then, like the day before we were gonna go see it, we saw 2 movies that weekend. We saw Shrek 4. Make that with what you will. The 4th movie that has like so many subtitles, like Shrek Goes 4. Shrek. We're gonna have a Shrek podcast, but
all right, Shrekcast.
But basically, The Last Airbender, I saw reviews for it, and it got a 6% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I'm like, wow. I think this was right around the Harry Potter like trailers came out too. So I was like checking all this other stuff about that, and like, okay. So when I went to go see the movie, I was like kind of really worried. And my dad's like, "Oh, it should be a good time." It's like, I hope so. So I watched the movie, and within the first 2 minutes, something was wrong. There's this long scroll of text. You know, at the beginning, Katara like talks and introduces the show. So that they have that live action, and this is with 3D glasses. 3D was post-converted so badly that every time when somebody would shoot something at the screen, it would hurt my fucking eyes. Like, it literally made my eyes hurt. And then they would have this long scroll of text, like backstory, credits and stuff. And then
I came to watch a movie, not read.
And then you see Sokka and Katara, and they're both white for some reason. And this is like the Arctic, and like it's filled with like Caucasian people. I think Katara's grandmother is like the only one that isn't white. She might be. I haven't watched the movie in so long. But then they rescue Aang or Ung. And bless that kid. He's that kid and Dev Patel. They're the ones that are actually really trying in this movie. They're really trying. The problem with the kid that plays Ung, this is like his first movie. He was handpicked by M. Night Shyamalan because he was a karate martial arts expert at his age. But he's never really had any prior acting experience. I think he was in a commercial maybe before this. The girl played Katara. I think she was like in a couple like kids movies. The guy who played Sokka was in Twilight.
Sokka.
So like you're already off to a bad start with casting. And you got the guy from the Daily Show in there as like the Fire Lord's right hand man. I love that guy, but dude, what are you doing in this movie? Cliff Curtis is the Fire Lord who's barely in it. It's like, Cliff Curtis, really? He's in Fear the Walking Dead now. Wish him the best with that. How are you in this movie?
And Iroh
looked like a hippie.
Well, I'm not even gonna touch that one.
Yeah, he's just way off.
One of my favorite characters.
Oh, and the Moon Princess, whatever her name is, her hair looked like a penis.
Oh.
They showed they cut the movie, and it looks like a dick. Years later, it's like that's really, really makes me really uncomfortable. And it's just so forced because they shoved 30 episodes of the first season in less than an hour and a half movie.
Yeah,
it's not even 2 hours. It's less than 100 minutes.
I remember seeing scenes of the Kyoshi Warriors being hinted at, and I was like, "Ooh, this is gonna be exciting!" And then, maybe a couple of days later, I saw a news report. Kyoshi Warriors are gonna be cut from the new Avatar movie. I was like, "Well, how are you gonna do book one without Kyoshi Warriors?"
I haven't heard M. Night didn't even watch the show all the way through.
Yeah,
he watched certain episodes.
You can't do that.
So he was like, I'm just gonna make a movie based on the 5 episodes.
I feel bad because this goes back to another infamous movie, like Dragon Ball Evolution. Because James Marsters was treated like shit after that movie came out. He's like, "Oh, you didn't watch the show," and apparently, no, James Marsters is a big Dragon Ball fan. He literally had to sign a non-disclosure agreement and make shit up on the spot to talk good about the movie. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of movies nowadays, you kind of have to sign an NDA whether it's bad or good and talk good about it. And the screenwriter of the movie apologized. Get over it. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's not good either. Mm-hmm. They could have done more with it, but it was definitely produced and directed by people that didn't give a shit about it. The only person I think only did was James Marsters and Stephen Chow, but Stephen Chow was so disillusioned with that movie, he doesn't care. He's just I made Kung Fu Hustle. I don't give a shit. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Have you thought of a movie yet, or a show, a comic book, anything?
No. No, I still haven't. I'm trying. Jeez.
Talking about the New 52. That's a reboot.
That well, I wouldn't say it was completely bad. They did some good stuff. They did some bad stuff.
They did some good stuff with Batman and Flash.
Yeah, they
Green
did.
Lantern especially.
Yeah.
Superman.
I didn't get to read any of the Superman stuff.
Superman one, they just nerfed his powers. Superman's supposed to be the way he is because the writers made it like that. Because Superman has no limits. He's Superman.
Yep.
That's what people don't understand. He's not OP. He's just Superman. He can do whatever.
He is the superest man.
Yeah.
Superest man. Well, I mean, at least they rebooted, or actually, I wouldn't say did they retcon or reboot.
It's more like a reboot.
Well, no, for 52, they pretty much wrote off 52. Everything that happened after
Rebirth.
Flashpoint.
Oh yeah, with that.
Yeah, with Rebirth, yeah, all that apparently does not count anymore, and they just jumped right back to what it was before Flashpoint. So it's 5 years down the drain. So
well, Jeff Johns did it because I don't think he was entirely happy with how the New 52
direction was going. Yeah,
even though he showrun the whole thing, but I don't know. From what I heard, Rebirth is on the right track.
It is.
Apparently.
Yeah, a couple of the stories I've read were actually pretty good. There's some aspects they're taking from 52 that they're still migrating into the whole Rebirth section. For example, for some reason now they got to explain why all of a sudden Shazam's outfit looks different. I didn't get to read apparently they got another Green Lantern. This time it's a woman. And I didn't get to read that one yet. That one I'm probably going to read sometime this week when I get the chance. And tell you guys how it is. But I don't know. I liked that New 52. Especially when before the 52, it was hard for me to kind of get in the comics in general because it's unless you really hung around the comic book shops and people told you when you could jump in, chances are you're going to jump right into the middle of a story and have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
So when they introduced New 52, I'm like, okay, this is good. I can jump back in, follow everything out, and stuff, and I won't be so confused, and it's easy to keep track of everything. And that was good until eventually I got sidetracked and I got behind on a lot of comics. And then I'm right back to square one all over again. So Rebirth was pretty much going to help me jump right back in again because now all the continuities are kind of getting started over again, or technically continuing.
But what are your feelings? Do you think that's a bad thing or a good thing?
What Rebirth?
Yeah, Rebirth. I've heard people love it, but I've heard people's it's only been a couple of years.
Well, I mean, yeah, I know it's been a couple of years since they just established that. Something that big, you would think would last, 10, 15 years before, or a major crossover event. I think the criticism was they did have a big event, which I don't think, I have to reread it, I don't think it caused the whole Rebirth thing. I think they just decided, hey, we're just going to cut it here, do Rebirth. Mm-hmm. And naturally, when you restart some stuff, there's going to be bound to be some of the restarts that are bad, but so far mostly I've heard that it was pretty good. Mostly because they're getting rid of all the errors that the New 52 kind of
worst of the comic reboots right now probably has to be Marvel really right now. Marvel's in such a weird state.
It is, and that's why it's hard for me to get back into Marvel. I'm leaning towards DC when it comes to their comics.
They have Ironheart. They have Captain America as a Nazi.
Yeah, like
but he's technically brainwashed by the Cosmic Cube, basically from
Yeah.
Red Skull, which is bullshit.
Yeah, that's just like, oh yeah, we messed up. We gotta come up with some
And,
bullshit excuse. It's like the Skrull excuse all over again. It's like, oh, he just got brainwashed.
I was totally fine with like bringing Steve Rogers back as Captain America. We could still have like the Falcon still as like a version of Captain America in that same continuity.
Yeah, and I heard there's supposed to be like another Captain America, so technically there's gonna be like 3 of them. Which is going to be very confusing.
It's madness.
It is.
It's madness.
Too much patriotism.
But
Too much America.
if nobody else has anything else to say,
Well, sorry, go ahead.
I want to talk about a few other bad remakes. Maybe that I've
Oh yeah, that's right. Technically,
Yeah.
some
technically we
some
didn't get
ones
the
that are
filter
guilty
anyway.
pleasures. But it's up to you. Do you guys want to say something else?
I was
Oh,
gonna,
no.
I was going to move to a new topic, but you definitely have some
Okay.
more
Yeah, you got
stuff to
something.
go.
So
All right. We'll just cut this. But I have a few other remakes that have been under fire recently that I found either to be quite fun and enjoyable, and also one that it's been talked about a lot recently that's not very good. The ones I find like are guilty pleasures for me are the TMNT Platinum Doom movies that have come out recently with
Are those the Michael Bay ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he produced
he produced them. Yeah,
Platinum
he actually
Dunes
directed
is,
them.
Platinum Dunes is his production company, but and they're responsible for remaking stuff, and also they do stuff like they do original stuff sometimes.
Right.
But with TMNT and TMNT Out of the Shadows, I found those movies to be really enjoyable. They're stupid movies. They're just dumb, but goddamn, aren't they enjoyable?
Yeah.
They just bring a smile to my face because there's people that work on those movies that actually give a shit about Ninja Turtles, and Megan Fox at least tries in those movies. Will Arnett's just kind of there in those movies, and the only problem I didn't like with Out of the Shadows is they have Casey Jones as Stephen Amell. Stephen Amell, I like him, but he's not Casey Jones. He's just sort of there in that movie. He brings nothing to that movie. Just sort of there. Bebop and Rocksteady were cool and everything, and I don't know. I found those movies to be really enjoyable. One remake that's been out recently that I got the chance to see was Ghostbusters, or as I call Ghostbusters Answer the Call, or Feigbusters, because it's directed by Paul Feig or Feig.
See, I've been meaning to see it, and I do want to see it.
Yeah, like I said, I don't diss people for watching it because I saw it myself. If you want to watch it, go right ahead. And because there is stuff to like about that movie, there are a couple of things that are good. I think the cast is good. It's got a lot. They have chemistry. I think it's shot really well, and there's definitely some love for the original in there. The problem is the villain's weak as hell. He's underdeveloped. He's some bully that got shoved in lockers and wants to take over the ghosts out in New York. Chris Hemsworth is fine. He has some good laughs in that movie.
Yeah.
But he's just he's just a dumbass, like, completely.
Yes. But I think that was intentional.
Yeah.
It is intentional, because everybody in the movie, like, people said it's a movie that hates men. No, it's a movie that hates everybody.
It's turning the stereotypes against, like, they have an all-female cast, and then they have, like, the one male character who isn't taken as seriously as the female, whereas with most movies nowadays, it's a complete opposite. It's a complete male cast,
well, the thing
and the
is,
female isn't taken very
the thing
seriously.
where, like, my friend was, like, never going to pay money to see it or even watch it, because the movie, like, goes out of its way to, like, hate men. It's like, no, it hates everybody. Everybody's an idiot in that movie. Even the Ghostbusters sometimes act like idiots.
Yep, and
Like, they make really bad decisions in that movie that could endanger people, literally, more than any controversial DC movie would. But basically with Ghostbusters it's like, I call it Answer the Call because it doesn't, like, they're not seasoned Ghostbusters, and, like, they drag it out so much in that movie to, like, make them the actual team, and it feels just like the ending at times feels unearned. The weakest link of that movie is probably Melissa McCarthy, probably, because she starts off the movie just really, really obnoxious and, like, really, like, like, Leslie Jones is fine. Kate McKinnon and Kristen Wiig I found to be the highlights, even though Wiig in that movie makes some really dumb decisions out of just spite. Mm-hmm. And there's some, like, scenes in that movie where, like, you, like, I don't want to spoil it or anything.
Yeah, please don't.
It's...
yeah,
you still
spoilers. Yes.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about spoilers.
Okay.
Yeah.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. But there's a scene where, like, you can tell one character is, like, really uncomfortable, and they still keep doing it in the scene. I'm not going to say who, but you'll see it in the movie.
Right.
But, the cameos are just there. Bill Murray looks miserable. I'm not going to say who he's playing, but he looks miserable. Like, he has a gun pointed to his head the entire time he's filming that scene. He looks miserable. But that's all I'm gonna say. Like I said, there's some. It's not a train wreck though. There's some stuff to like about it. Mm-hmm. I went in with an open mind. I was expecting a bucket of shit, but it wasn't. There's some good stuff in it. But I'm not gonna spoil anything. But like I said, maybe give it a shot. Maybe a rental or something. Mm-hmm. Or like if you have a good torrent of it. That's about it. That's probably the amount of money I'd pay for. I wouldn't buy the Blu-ray, but I would probably suggest at least people take a look at it because there's good elements in there, but the script is the weakest part of that movie as well as its villain. The script is just, it's bad. Like, it's a weak script. There's no tension in the movie, and there's not a lot of character development. There really is not. Mm-hmm. And it suffers from a script that panders a little bit, and also the fact that Kate McKinnon's gay and Paul Feig was going to make her character gay as well, but then he's like, Sony didn't want that, so I didn't. It's like, fuck off, Sony. This is the second time, too, that I've heard Sony be a little bit homophobic. I told Mo and everybody this the other day that allegedly producers at Marvel were looking for a gay Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. But Sony said no. Because they don't want that. And they said no to a lesbian Ghostbuster. So they're like, yeah, Sony, the people at Sony I know are homophobic.
Yeah.
So just let you know there, Sony, you're already digging a deeper hole in your grave than you are right now. Not as bad as Konami, but Sony's pretty.
Yeah, Konami's kind of deep down there.
Sony's pretty, like, you know, but I would recommend it, Sean. I think you would like it.
Yes, I think that I would definitely like it.
I think my dad would like it too, and maybe my mom. But it's definitely, like, it's such a mixed bag of a movie. It's not good. It's not terrible, but it's meh. It's okay. Mm-hmm. It's meh. And I don't think, and that's not what I wanted from that movie. I don't want any movie to fail. I want it to be better. I was expecting it because it has the worst marketing campaign of any movie. That's no excusable. That trailer was atrocious as well as its marketing. The marketing for that movie is inexcusable if you want a blockbuster like that. But I will say I would give it a chance at least.
Yes.
I'm sure there's an audience for that movie. I've been seeing people on comments and stuff that like the movie. I'm like, good for you. Enjoy it. I'm glad you guys liked it. I'm glad you enjoyed it and found pleasure of it. I still think Paul Feig is a dick. He's an asshole, and he's lucky he gets another shot like this again. But because he's not doing the sequel if this movie ever even gets a sequel. I don't even know if it is. Yeah. He's going to make its money back. But there's rumors they might just go the animated route and just have the reboot cast being an animated kind of thing.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of neat, but
yes.
That's the only thing I'm going to talk about, continuations, because we would go in spoilers.
Right.
But like I said, it's not really controversial, but it's not great and it's not terrible. It's meh. It's okay. Moving on.
Yeah. So
new topic.
If we're done talking about the reboots and remakes that we don't like, let's move on to some that we want to see. Some that either were like really good when they're old and would work as a reboot or a remake, or even something recent that was a really bad adaptation that you'd like to see something better.
Yeah. Oh, I got a few in mind. Oh yeah.
Do you have anything, Mo?
I really want to see him redo G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
That's one I actually want to see.
I want to see it animated. I don't want it live action.
Yeah. Make it animated for this one.
You can still get a celebrity voice cast.
Yeah.
You can do motion capture. Like, you make it CG animated. It could be kind of cool. I just don't know which CG company would do it, maybe.
I don't know.
You don't want the people that made Sausage Party to work on it. We'll save that movie for another day.
That'll be another podcast.
Yeah.
That'll be another topic.
I refuse to give money to that piece of shit.
Oh God, yeah.
Did either of you guys actually see it, or?
I've seen bits of it.
Oh, okay, no.
I heard that the animation studio got screwed over severely.
Well, once I heard there was like a food orgy in it, I was like, no.
Well, I read the screenplay because it got leaked online. I found that they didn't even change the screenplay when they directed and released the movie. It was still the same script that they had back in like 2013, 2014.
Oh, God.
It's really bad.
Okay.
But yeah, G.I. Joe would be a good one.
Yeah, that's the one.
Maybe bring back some of the classic meme material that was involved, like the
pork chops, sandwiches.
Get the fuck out of here!
maybe bring back some of the PSAs that made kind of iconic at the time, and kind of revamp those so that it's more current. It was a lot of fun back then. I want it to be fun now too if they were to reboot it or remake it.
Yeah, I would say I would really like Twilight Zone the movie to be remade.
Yes, without the death.
Without the death.
without
John
murder.
Landis, who should be in prison.
Yeah.
And his son should be fired from Hollywood because he's a shitty screenwriter.
Dang.
Yeah, let's
Who
make that
cries like a
without
little bitch
the
in
blood
his
of
interviews.
children on their hands.
He was actually Max Landis was gonna write a Pokemon movie.
Oh.
Sony, I know Sony and a bunch of other companies. No, Warner Brothers now owns I think it's Warner Brothers owns the license to Pokemon still.
Mm-hmm.
So they're looking at a Pokemon live action movie. And Max Landis was pitched. And the thing with Max Landis, that's what he is. He's a pitch guy. He's not a screenwriter.
Right.
The only script he wrote was Chronicle, and that was a good movie. But he's done American Ultra. He did Victor Frankenstein, two movies that are kind of pieces of shit with potential, though, with the good setup.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, Landis was hired to pitch Ghostbusters 3, Superman movie, Pokemon, and a bunch of other stuff. And his Ghostbusters 3 pitch is probably his most popular one. But it's all, half the pitch is him patting himself on the back, and that's why I don't like the guy. He's a pitch guy. He's not a storyteller.
Right.
But this isn't about Max Landis. But with Twilight Zone the movie, going back on topic, it was on a bit of a tangent. But Twilight Zone the movie, I feel like that can be refreshed and reimagined for a new audience. Mm-hmm. They could still do the anthology thing. I thought that was a good idea, and still have the different directors shoot it, and do it way better than VHS and VHS 2 have ever done. Wink, wink. But and I would probably bring some of those guys back. I would love to have George Miller come back and do another piece, because his piece in Twilight Zone the movie is the best part, besides maybe Joe Dante.
Yeah.
Joe Dante did a lot of revolutionary things with his segment. He did a lot of stand-in props and models and even sculptures to make it look like the thing was coming to get you, but it was a still image.
Yeah.
But it added effects to it to make it look like it was a haunting kind of thing. But it was a cartoon character from hell. And I'm like, that's cool. Do more of that. And because I know people told me Krampus does a little bit of that too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's neat. I haven't seen it, but I might see it real soon. But,
yeah.
It's got Adam Scott in it. It's directed by the guy Trick or Treat. I like that movie. So, but going back to Twilight Zone the movie, the cast I would probably pick of directors to be in it, Christopher Nolan to produce the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Have him maybe direct a segment, He's probably expensive at this point.
Yeah.
George Miller, I want him to come back. Probably Fede Alvarez of Evil Dead and Don't Breathe. I'd like him to do something. Not less gory, but something a little more like... Twilight Zone's dark, but they always have lighthearted fare. So
Right.
it'd be interesting to see him take a dark subject. But also, I would like to see... who's the other guy? Who's a favorite of mine recently? Maybe Brad Bird or somebody like that would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Or M. Night Shyamalan. I'm dead serious. I think M. Night Shyamalan doing a Twilight Zone movie would be a stroke of genius.
Yeah.
And look,
Possible redemption.
we shit on M. Night a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Everybody does. But we always secretly want to root for the guy to do better.
Yeah.
Because he's a talented storyteller. He really is.
He is.
Those first couple movies he did, they weren't flukes. So, I would like him to be part of it, but I also want him... I want them to tell, like, stories they haven't really done in the previous movie.
Yeah.
I don't want a segment about a racist bigot.
Yeah.
I want, like, movies based on the original stories, most likely. But I would want to do it in a way where it's not like a rehash, like, extended version of the original episode. I want them to, like, go maybe a different direction with the anthology concept, like, have the stories and characters... Because originally Twilight Zone, the movie, they were going to have characters from each segment go into the next segment and, like, sort of, like, twist it around to make it look like it was his own thing. But due to Vic Morrow's passing, untimely death, that wasn't going to happen.
No.
And Spielberg just wanted to cut ties with the movie altogether. Wasn't going to happen either. Like, he kind of denounces that movie in a lot of ways. Because his heart really wasn't into it when he was shooting his segment.
Yeah.
Spielberg basically helped salvage that movie. And I think he was just done after that movie came out. It's like he just wanted nothing to do with it. I don't blame him. But the movie still is enjoyable. But a movie deserves a remake. It deserves a pair of fresh eyes. It deserves more Rod Serling. It deserves more respect to the guy who created it. Because there's barely a hint of Serling in the movie. Because he didn't just, like, narrate the show. He produced it, directed it, wrote the scripts. He pitched the show for a very long time. He even controlled the earnings and royalties of the show for a very long time. Yeah. And Serling wasn't one of these guys who was just a guy who wrote stories. He saw the world in a different view. He saw the prejudices and he saw the world as it was. It was in the 50s and 60s, it was racist as fuck. A lot of stuff was very mismanaged. We were just going into Vietnam, and a lot of the U.S. Army just got out of Korea. Got out of Korea, helping China and the other territories with that war. So Serling saw the world in a different perspective, and a lot of those stories reflect those times. You can still tell those stories because they're not really dated. You can tell stories going now. The stuff we're facing right now as a country. Those are completely irrelevant to tell in a Twilight Zone kind of setting.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like it could still be and I would love to have a producer credit. Which I did pitch the movie at Warner Brothers. Also, I think DiCaprio has always been desperate to get that movie made.
Yeah.
I just wish he would just drop Akira already and just focus on Twilight Zone.
Yes.
We'll talk about Akira later.
Yeah. So, I also have a movie in mind. I talked about it last time too in our pilot episode.
Oh my god.
We're gonna be all meta with this remake of the podcast, just so you know, guys.
So The Golden Compass is one of my favorite books. The historic material books were my favorites when I was a teenager. And they got a movie adaptation for it, and it just, like, it had a lot of good things going for it, but it just did not compare, and I was not a huge fan of it.
It's a very mean-spirited movie at times. It's just very, like, there's no optimism in it. It's just very, like, cold
and I mean, some of that's attributed to the the book a little bit,
yeah,
but
some of it's the director as well.
Yes, a lot of it's the director.
It's got a good cast. It's got Daniel Craig in there, and what's her name? Fuck, what's her name? The actress that plays the witch or whatever. Golden Compass? She's a famous actress. I can't believe I don't
Yeah,
know her name.
Gwyneth Paltrow? No.
Oh, no, that wasn't it. Do I have to look this up?
Anyways, while they're looking it up, like it was really good casting. Like the main girl, Lyra, like her actress was really great. I thought the CG with the familiars and everything.
Polar bear.
Yeah, the polar bear. Polar bear cavalry is always great. I'm really glad they included that in the movie. But it felt like they were trying to do...
Nicole Kidman, that's her.
There we go.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay,
After I just pulled up the browser.
Well, it's like not Gwyneth Paltrow, but the other pale lady.
Cut that part. Let's just insert a Nicole Kidman.
It's gonna sound so out of place.
I know it is.
But
Do it.
But so the casting was really great. The CG for everything was really great. Like it wasn't like super overdone like some of the other movies, but like it still had a presence. I really liked what they were trying to do, but they kind of rushed the first book and included elements from the other books, and it didn't mesh well together. And I would have really loved to see it like take it book by book like the Harry Potter movies do, like maybe doing an abridged version, but not like try to squeeze every last detail, but try to
like the Hunger Games movies.
Yeah, like I just want a nice balance with my Golden Compass movie, and I want the other books as different movies because they were amazing. And like especially the last the last book, like it had so much to talk about with it. Like it had a lot of ethical stuff with it, with religion, because Philip Pullman is like a huge atheist and everything, and he has a lot of criticisms in his book, and they kind of glanced over it in the movies, which probably for a good reason because it's a kids movie. But I just really like the books, and I want a really faithful adaptation to it.
Yeah, the thing is, like with the Golden Compass is there's a bunch of these like young adult and like kid movies that got like brought into production like so quick right after Hunger Games came out.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them failed because they just missed the point of like why Hunger Games is making a lot of money. Even though like those movies aren't very good, like but you see the point in why people like them, and why people were turned off by like the Divergent, Insurgent, whatever movies, and I know like the Mortal Instruments was like dead on arrival when that came out.
Mm-hmm.
I feel good because I like Lily Collins. She's a good actress, but she keeps appearing in crap like Mirror Mirror and Mortal Instruments. I feel bad because that movie just felt like it was rushed into production, and that movie The Fifth Wave that just came out, that was dead on arrival as well when that came out, because it just wasn't doing anything new. It really wasn't. But I think I agree, the Golden Compass, I would like to see a fresh like take on it. I know people always talk about a Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball in itself deserves a complete reimagining as a live action movie, because I feel it has potential to happen, because Battle of Gods and Resurrection F made how much money? They can find a way to they can find a way to do it again, because I know it's possible to make it a live action movie. They just need to try at least. And if they don't do a good job, I know they just tried and gave it their best effort, unlike Evolution did, and make Stephen Chow the actual director this time, and actually get an Asian cast and actually do all this and that, and actually have a decent composer. And they got Brian Tyler to do the score for Dragon Ball Evolution, but it's such a most generic score you can bring into a movie. This is the guy who did the Avengers Age of Ultron score and a bunch of other stuff, and it's just really like disappointing to hear it in the movie. But like, I don't know, and get ILM and get some of these production companies. They got like a second-rate production company even work on Dragon Ball Evolution. It's like, you're Fox. You have the best resources in the world. You made Star Wars happen. Like, do better than this. But that's just my spiel on that. But what about you, Mo? You have anything else, or?
No, I went first. I'm the one that mentioned G.I. Joe.
I mean, I just thought you had something else.
No.
Okay.
I got nothing else.
Another topic, or?
Well, I think that's pretty good for a remake, reboot
Yeah. Okay.
podcast topic. I think that we've covered pretty much everything that we can.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap it up.
Yes.
Yep.
So
any final thoughts or any final like things you guys want to like mention before we send off?
Reboots are fine. Just handle them with care.
Like actually get a guy who actually gives a shit about making it.
Yeah.
Not a guy who just wants to do it for an agenda or just to make money.
Mm-hmm.
Like Paul Feig. Or sorry.
But so yeah, thank you for listening to us ramble about movies. And
this is the first episode of the Boosted Supermarket podcast, and
wink.
Oh my god.
But we have some more stuff in store. I actually commissioned a friend of mine to work on some art to help, like, maybe give the podcast a certain look on a page or whatever, or to show people. We also have an image that we're gonna use that I commissioned as well, and some stuff we've used in the past. We'll probably use that as well for thumbnails or for cover art for podcast episodes.
Yes. So again, make sure to give us a listen. If you like what we do, please repost. Please like. Please heart. And please smiley face. Please and anything.
Don't
We're
use
desperate.
those poop emojis. Those you'll be blocked. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, bye.
This is the Moose checking out.
Yeah, checking out at the supermarket. He's getting his coupons out.
Get his 20% off Dr. Pepper bottles.
All right. Bye, everyone.
See ya.
See you later.